Example 3, coastal forest and shrub. So this is more of a Douglas fir, tan oak, and shrubs fuel type. This is a small burn. It's only 3 acres. 3 acres was planned, 3 acres was completed. This burn was not funded by NRCS. The burn plan nor the burn itself were funded by NRCS. This was a privately funded burn, but the PVA helped, the Humboldt County Prescribed Burn Association. So it was, I think, highly successful. For you foresters, this is more similar fuels to what you might find in forested settings. The fuels were grass and leaf litter, a mix of slash, and some heavy logs and stumps. There was quite a bit of slash in portions of this unit as a result of fuels limbing and other brush cutting work that the landowner had done ahead of the burn, and then moved that material into the middle of the burn unit or out into the burn unit away from the line. The burn plan author and the burn boss in this example were the same people. So the same person wrote the burn plan and then led the burn. We had a lot of smoldering on this burn, which I think was interesting. That's going to be typical in forest land, I think, particularly when you have a lot of stumps and large down wood legacy logging type of features. One thing that's also interesting about this burn is that in 2017, this burn occurred in 2018, but in 2017, the landowners attempted to do this burn, but their community didn't feel comfortable, and they had quite a bit of backlash from certain people in the community that felt uncomfortable with what was being planned. And that was emotional for the landowners because they didn't, they wanted good relations with their neighbors, and so that actually delayed implementation. And I think that's really important. So this is a picture of this burn unit, lots of shrubs and grass in the upper part. This is the upper part, so the upper acre and a half or so. This is the morning of the burn. And so this was an October burn in 2018. An NWCG qualified burn boss was hired for this, National Wildfire Coordinating Group, Burn Boss 2. And that same burn boss wrote the burn plan, which was privately financed. Landowner expertise was used a lot in the planning for this. And the landowner did a ton of prep work to make this burn unit ready for implementation. They're planning a maintenance burn for 2020 or 2021 to continue to maintain the area. The area is right around their home, and in some cases, we were burning within the defensible space of the home. So they want to keep maintaining that as a low fuels condition as much as they can. Hired resources and fees amounted to $4,140 for this burn. That's at 3 acres, that's $1,300 an acre, so that's expensive. The burn boss came in at about $2,500 total to act as burn boss on the burn. Local volunteer fire department donations were about $1,000 total. The air quality management district permit fees were $140 total. The burn plan cost $500 in this example. Prescribed Burn Association resources that came to the burn, 25 or so landowner members, 4 local volunteer fire department engines. We didn't necessarily need all those engines, but they all got training, which was useful for them. Torches, hand tools, slip-in water tanks, and radios also came from the Prescribed Burn Association. CAL FIRE sent an engine with a few people to act as a standby support. So here's early on in the burn. This is the upper part of the burn unit. That's the burn boss there on the road in the foreground. So you can see some of the fuels, a lot of grass burning underneath brush, and some of the brush consuming. Example of ignitions in shrub fuels. This is what some of the understory burning in this unit looked like. So we had pretty good consumption and pretty good spread of fire in the understory. In October, this is very coastal. This is King Range near Shelter Cove, to give you an idea of where we're at, south of Cape Mendocino, quite a bit, south of Petrolia. Another picture of burning in the understory in part of this burn unit with an engine and some water storage nearby. This is an example in the foreground here of some of the heavier slash fuels that were in parts of this unit before it's been ignited. In the background, you can see the house. So that's how close we were to this home. And then the fencing you can see there is part of their vegetable garden. So we burned right up to the edge of the fence, and in some places right up to the edge of the house. Decision making with the landowner, the burn boss, talking to the landowner about making a decision on whether or not to ignite the third compartment of this 3-acre burn later in the day. And this is some burning around girdled fir trees, so snags, which I think is interesting. A lot of us on the North Coast deal with a lot of girdled trees when we're working in oak woodlands. because it is an easy way to kill fir trees when you're trying to open up an area. And you can prescribe burn around girdled trees. In some cases, you might have to go slow and be careful, but we successfully did that in this burn, even at a small scale in a small burn. We had one large, really old snag that dates to the 1970s that caught fire in this burn late in the day, and we learned a lot from that incident. And there was a lot of good training from that too, about how to operate around a snag that's on fire, and we learned how to put it out. This is the snag after it had been put out the next day. So this is some before and after pictures. So the upper left here is the morning of the burn. During the burn, lower left, upper right immediately after the burn, and then lower right following spring in the same area. This picture is the following fall. So this would have been fall of 2019, and the burn was implemented a year before that in the fall of 2018. The solar panels were added later. Before and after picture of understory. Sorry about the firefighters, prescribed burners in the picture, but you can see some of the fuels on the ground there, and then what the consumption was. We had really good consumption in the understory, which was great for fuels reduction. Another picture of forest understory before, upper left, after, lower right. And this is the following summer after the burn, actually the following fall. So this is a year later. And you can see there's still substantially low fuel load here. So I think that great benefits for fuels burning understory in coastal California. So before, upper left, after, a year later. So this is a year later, lower right, looking towards the house from this location on the burn. You can see a transition of shrub and slash to mostly grass. A series of before and after. Upper left is before, lower left during, upper right after, and then the lower right, a snow event that winter after the burn. And then this is the following spring, and this the following summer, so a year later at the same location. Just to give you an idea of some of the effects. So what was the NRCS support for this? There wasn't any. NRCS did not contract this burn and did not provide technical assistance for it. The cost to the landowner was $4,000. If NRCS had provided funding assistance at the current rates that we have, which we have some new rates, it would have been about a payment of $817. That would have been a difference of $3,300 to the landowner for just the burning. So would have been paying the majority of the cost of this, and NRCS wouldn't have been picking up very much cost. That's for only a 3-acre burn, so a very small burn unit in a defensible space. The landowner did provide additional food and did other prep work and notifications to the community, and a lot of community outreach for this one. Hosted several meetings with community members. But despite the cost, if you ask this landowner from a fuels management perspective, they would say absolutely it was worth the cost. Some fuels were reduced in this that you can't reduce with any other type of treatment. A lot of the ground fuels, a leaf and dust, litter, and some of the logs and things that were in this, that were old, were difficult for the landowner to deal with in any other way. And so they really feel like this was worth the cost to them. Many of the effects cannot be emulated with other practices that fire can perform for you. The burn was transformative for this community. I think prescribed fire gained a lot of proponents in this burn. As I mentioned, the burn was postponed in 2017 because of emotions in the community, and that was overcome. And I think that is a huge success despite costs. And those are the kind of costs that or the kind of benefits that are not as tangible, but that are extremely important. So I think the community was strengthened as a whole, and the training opportunity by the departments that came was highly valued. So take home from examples. When estimating costs, do consider fixed costs. Burn bosses per day, engines per day. Those are not per acre rates, they are per day rates or fixed fees for service. Don't assume the size of a burn and costs are related. They might be loosely related. There's some interesting information out there about that, but often it's not that great of a relationship and probably not the best way to estimate costs. Account for the possibility of multiple attempts or failed attempts. This is something I think people forget to do a lot that I think is really important. You may not succeed the first time, and that's going to cost you something. The burn boss choice severely affects cost, how qualified they are, what kind of contractor they are, but that may provide some peace of mind depending on what kind of client you have. They might just want to see those qualifications, and that might be the type of client that you're working with as a practitioner, or that makes you feel better in implementing a burn, and that might be a cost you're willing to pay. Or if you don't have a prescribed burn association where you are, or you have an emerging one that doesn't have a lot of experience yet, maybe the leadership is something that you need from that more highly qualified burn boss, and that's worth spending the money on. But it is a big piece of cost is the burn boss and what kind of qualification level they have. Good preparation lowers cost on burn day, absolutely does. Don't be afraid to get creative with that ahead of the burn, what you do and how you deal with unique fuel types, weird situations on the burn unit, or unique ways to construct fire line. More efforts are needed in coastal forest types. Absolutely, this is true. Coastal forest types in California have not seen a lot of prescribed fire in a long time, and in a lot of places, not a lot of wildfire either. So I think we need a lot more people to try and do this stuff in the coast. And so, I encourage you to work toward that goal if you are in the coast in particular, or in other evergreen forest types. We do need to learn more about it. And to do that, I think we do need to have some examples. Do not underestimate the impact of emotional response. It's critical. It can derail an effort completely. Community cohesion matters. So be careful as you proceed. Every burn is a training burn. I wanted to show with lessons learned that every time I've been involved in fire, I learned something. Even doing a pile burn, I learned things. And so it's important to measure success by what you learn, and to take those lessons to the future burns that you go to and other planning efforts. And even the smallest prescribed burns. So if you're working on a really small project, don't be discouraged. They can still be immense successes. They can bring a community together. They can offer incredible training opportunities, and they can be a jumping off point to more opportunities. That is the end of part 3 of my talk. I hope you enjoyed it. Please check out parts 1 and 2. I am Matthew Cocking, the Natural Resources Conservation Service Forester for the North Coast of California. Happy burning.